he was just holding the rod. But as soon as he fell in the water, the fish got under a rock and broke the line. So both he and the rod and the reel and everything came right back up.
Hey everyone, John here from Cast and Spear, and today we have Dan Smith back from howtocatchanyfish.com. And today he's going to talk about his favorite freshwater and saltwater fish and how to catch them. Please give a warm welcome to Dan.
I would say there's a ton of different potential candidates for favorite fish, and it's hard to pick one. I guess for saltwater, I'll probably go with the giant trevally. It's a large member of the jack family. It gets up to, well, I think theoretically it gets up to 200 or so pounds. I have never heard of anyone catching one that big on rod and reel. But they're very large reef fish, tropical reef fish. They live in the in various tropical Pacific Ocean locales and some in the Indian Ocean, I believe. And there's actually a pretty popular fishery for them in Oman, so they're fairly widespread. They're a very popular fish in Hawaii, which is where I lived when I was a kid, and I always dreamed of catching them. But they're a very strong and tough fish to catch, especially from shore if you don't have fairly specialized equipment. So, which I certainly didn't have when I was a kid. So it was not until I was about 30 that I actually caught one. I was in New Caledonia, which is east of Australia. And I think one of the things I like about them the most is that you primarily fish for them with giant topwater lures, and anything you catch on a topwater is a lot of fun because you see the strike and they just come out of the water and just explode on those things in a way that I don't think I've seen any other fish do. And then once you hook them, it's trying to stay in the boat because you have to fish with the drag really tight, and you fish with heavy tackle with a tight drag, which means there's some chance if you're not careful you end up in the water. So yeah, I like the challenge of those things. I like seeing the big topwater explosion and trying to wrestle with something that's strong enough to pull you in. I've never actually gone into the water myself, but I've come pretty close. And I had one time I had someone on my boat go in the water from not being prepared for how strong they pull and how heavy a drag you have to use when you fish for them. So that would probably be the saltwater one.
What happened to that person? Did he just let go of the reel and lost the pole?
Well, thankfully it didn't, because it was my rod and reel. No, the line, it actually could have been a little dangerous. It wasn't like marlin fishing where you might be strapped into a harness and you could actually die. He was just holding the rod, but as soon as he fell in the water, the fish got under a rock and broke the line. So both he and the rod and the reel and everything came right back up.
Okay, that's good.
Unfortunately for him, this was in front of a bunch of his friends, and that was about 10 years ago. I'm sure there isn't a day that goes by that they don't remind him about it.
I'm sure he has a new nickname at this point.
Yeah.
Forever branded.
So in terms of freshwater fish, I think that's a little easier pick for me. I would say the peacock bass. They're a strong, aggressive fish. They're found in really beautiful places. No two of them look exactly alike, which I really like. Every one is a little different. There's several different subspecies of them, but even within the same subspecies, they all have different markings. And I don't know how many I've caught in my life. Probably somewhere between 700 or 800 and 1,000. And I don't think I've ever seen two that looked exactly alike. And like I said, they're found in a lot of really beautiful areas. I've been fortunate enough to fish for them in not all the places they're found, but quite a few of them: Brazil, Bolivia, Venezuela, and then some of the ones that have some of the places that have smaller ones: Panama, Puerto Rico, Hawaii, Florida, and all of them fight hard. All of them strike lures really aggressively. I'm primarily a lure fisherman, so both the GTs and the peacock bass are both fish that readily strike lures, and you can catch them both on top waters. So that's probably one of the big reasons I like both of those fish. It's hard to pick though. There's a lot of fish out there.
Absolutely. Do you have a specific lure that is your go-to for either saltwater or freshwater?
Um,
Or do you like to play around with them and see which, depending on the
yeah.
day?
In terms of a big fresh or a big saltwater popper, there's a big wooden popper called the Heru Kubera that I use a lot. I feel like that's kind of my default in any tropical location. If I'm going to throw a topwater, that's what I start with. It's heavy, it casts well, it makes a really big splash, and it holds up well to teeth and the beating it takes from the fish that bite it. So I've caught, if you look at my website, I've caught a pretty wide array of different fish on that thing. So I'm a big fan of those. For freshwater, I don't know that I have a real favorite lure for freshwater. I I've fished with the Yozuri crystal minnow or different Yozuri jerkbaits. I tend to use those a lot. Those catch a lot of different things. Anything that eats little fish, you can probably get it to eat one of those things. So I'm a fan of those as well.
All right, that does it for this episode of the podcast. Thanks, Dan, for stopping by. So tell me, how many of you have tried that Haruka bear lure? If you have any success with it, or maybe you got skunked with it, let me know. Go to the website, go to castandspear.com/contact, and leave us a note. And if you haven't already done so, please, it helps us out, especially as we're getting this podcast started. If you can go to iTunes and give us a rating and a review so we can know how to make this podcast better for you. And with that, thank you so much for listening. Keep those lines tight. See ya.